and gentlemen, Psalms 18:36 to 38 says, "You have enlarged my steps under me, that my feet do not slip. I have pursued my enemies and overtaken them. Neither did I turn again till they were consumed. I have wounded them, that they are not able to rise. They have fallen under my feet." The power of God. Shout out first to my subscriber, John King, also known as John Wonder, on my subscription of my channel. And he showed us something really, really, really cool that I just gotta show you guys, man. I just think this is way cool. So if you look at this, Olive Byrne, as you know, she was one of the influences behind the Wonder Woman comic, as well as William Moulton Marston. He was known as Charles Moulton, his comic book name. And Linda Carter in Supergirl, Linda Carter, who was also the embodiment of Wonder Woman in the 70s and 80s, Linda Carter's character on Supergirl is a composite of Olive Byrne and William Marston, a nod to Wonder Woman's history. They mixed Olive Byrne's name, Olive, and they mixed William Marston's name to get Olivia Marsden, which I thought was just so clever. It really is clever. And that's I believe the parent of Supergirl, I think it is. So I just wanted to shout out to that. That was brilliant there, John Wonder, also known as John King. Now, another thing that's really, really awesome is when it comes to Halloween, according to the Google tracking, the most ordered Halloween costume this year, and interest in a Halloween costume this year, is the Wonder Woman costume. It's not Harley Quinn this year. It's Wonder Woman. And that's just huge. That tells you how much of an impact Wonder Woman has had on the world. Which leads me to my next point. Variety magazine and several other magazines covered just recently some articles on Wonder Woman and the Oscars. And they make an argument. We all know that in our opinion, the best chance with Wonder Woman landing an Oscar would be for Best Director, which would be because of the wonderful Patty Jenkins here, who has very cleverly brought in certain inequalities in the world today and has actually questioned certain things of how the world is actually conducted today and how wars are conducted today in the film of Wonder Woman. It's just very, very, very brilliantly done, if you ask me. And it's a highly opinionated film, and she pulled it off. Okay, it's very preachy, if you think about it. But Warner Brothers is also proposing some others. You know, Best Supporting Actor role, Chris Pine. You know, you have Robin Wright in there. You know, fantastic performance by Robin Wright. So impactful and potent and powerful. And she had only a short stint in the movie, but it's just, oh my God, it's just incredible. She is such a great actor. So when we think of Wonder Woman as Best Picture, most people in the industry, some people in the industry at least, they're saying that, you know, when you think of Wonder Woman, it's not really you think of some other movies that could go for Best Picture. You know, Get Out, Dunkirk. I mean, a ton of them. All right, some of them not big blockbuster hits, but they, you know, you got a couple of them, right? I mean, even when you think of Best Comic Book Movie Picture for this year, some people will argue that, you know, Logan gets the nod over Wonder Woman. But one thing you cannot deny is that Wonder Woman has had an impact on the world unlike any other picture this year. When it comes to impact on the world, I'll give you a perfect example. Very recently, Harvey Weinstein the scandal has come all across the world and Hollywood. This guy has been for years sexually harassing or assaulting women. And women have, in a remarkable way, responded in ways they've never done before. While it started off with women coming out and speaking about what he's been doing, one or two women, then all of a sudden an avalanche of women have come out. And I'm talking about prominent women in the business, Okay, Gwyneth Paltrow, Angelina Jolie, you know. And some women have come out in his defense, but quite frankly, this has sparked the uprising of a movement called the Me Too movement, which we've seen on social media. And it's not that the Me Too movement has been new. It's not nothing new. It's been around for a while, but now on social media it's just kind of exploded. And both women and men have responded. The man version is more like "How will I change?" movement. But it sparked so much that we've had prominent people in Hollywood speaking about all of the exploitation that has happened to them. Some of them have been assaulted, some of them have even been sexually raped, and they've spoken out. This is the first time on this kind of scale in social media women have been speaking out this big. It's not like women haven't spoken out before, but it's been one or two, and they've usually been vilified when they've spoken out. So women have always been afraid to speak out. So we have a number of different movements where women would speak out, but not on this kind of scale. And this is post Wonder Woman. In fact, we've had women in Hollywood speaking out, prominent women in Hollywood, but now we've had a movement where women actually speaking out in other fields of career. In sport, we had the Olympic gymnast Michaela Maroney speaking out about years of alleged abuse by the team doctor. And this is so amazing because we have this Me Too movement that's come out that's actually prompted her to speak out. So the impact of Wonder Woman globally, and also in terms of sparking these kinds of movements coming out and actually talking about the inequalities, especially with respect to women, the inequalities that have been happening, the exploitation of women in Hollywood and now in other arenas, that alone is something that Hollywood likes to honor. And I think Hollywood is going to honor that because that's an important milestone or etch in history. Wonder Woman comes out in the year where women are speaking out about being exploited. Women actually are giving out their voice on certain issues. We've even seen women in countries which are Islamic or of other places where women are usually repressed. They're oppressed, sort of like, or repressed, suppressed from expressing themselves. And you see even these women actually getting copies. You know, some of these countries, they banned Wonder Woman being played in cinemas. And women have gotten access to these things via, again, social media, via online sites, you know, where you can pirate things. They've gone there and watched this movie, and it's empowered them. You see them in their hijabs or in their outfits, you know, whatever it may be, whatever religion or whatever social cultural group they are in. And you see them, you know, portraying Wonder Woman, these young women portraying this. And to me, that's very, very powerful. And unfortunately, the movie that came out just recently, which is William Marston, or the Professor Marston and the Wonder Woman, does not capture the spirit of this. They choose to go the sexual route of Wonder Woman, where they could have really captured in on what Wonder Woman really encapsulates and what William Marston and Elizabeth Hurley and Olive Byrne were actually doing. Because it came out at a time, Wonder Woman, first of all, what Wonder Woman symbolizes, according to Christy Marston and her father, is Wonder Woman basically epitomizes one who is for equality, one who is a can-do, and one who cares about others. These are things that universally appeal to every single person. And that was captured by Patty Jenkins in the movie. Wonder Woman crossed no man's land and did what no man could ever do because she cared about the people who were suffering on the other end, who hadn't eaten, who were being oppressed, who couldn't go when they needed to go to get supplies and things they needed, shelter to stay warm. And so they had to flee and they had to risk their lives to get out of that area. And this is because she cared. Wonder Woman obviously is a can-do. She does not know about we can't do this. And you saw her again in the can-do spirit, again encapsulating that. In addition, she's about equality. And because she cared, she wanted the scales to be balanced. And you saw her even reprimanding some of the generals when they didn't care about the soldiers. You saw her even telling Etta Candy, that's what we call slavery in my country, when she's just doing whatever this guy bids. And it's nothing to do with gender necessarily when she was speaking to her, but it appeals to gender. It happens to come across as a gender empowerment thing for women. And it translated into this Me Too movement. It translated into this guy, Harvey Weinstein, after so many years, 30 years of exploiting women, finally being held accountable. I'm just saying, Wonder Woman has that impact, and Hollywood respects that. Now, this was the opportunity for Sony to take advantage of that situation. Look at Elizabeth Hurley. She was a can-do woman. She was a career woman in a time when women were not seen as career women. Remember, women were just in their homes, cooking and cleaning. And then in World War One, which was around the time, where Elizabeth Hurley, the suffrage movement and all of this, women actually had to take over and run the country of the United States of America. They were running banks, they were running shops, they were running health organizations. They were literally administrators of health and so on. Every facet they had to run because the men were overseas fighting. And it's amazing, this is where the suffrage movement came from, because they were pretty much running the country. And we had what was known as the career woman later on. And this is where the career woman was born. And it's on the onset of that, in the Second World War, where this started happening all over again, where women had suffrage, but it was happening all over again, where William Moulton Marston, looking at Elizabeth Hurley, who's a feminist and comes from the downstream, she's a career woman, looking at Elizabeth Hurley, he decides, I'm going to do some propaganda. I'm going to tell people what the future woman is going to be like, and they're going to like it. So it's not that you can't have agendas when you do your movie. Obviously, Patty Jenkins had an agenda. This movie was an opinionated movie. It was preaching to people, but people bought into it. They bought into it hook, line, and sinker because the movie provided what they wanted to hear. They could relate to it, and then they saw things they never saw before. Women saw themselves portrayed on the screen in ways they never seen them portrayed before. Usually, a prominent woman or a hero or heroine of a movie, she had some kind of vulnerability. She always had to depend on some man. There was some mansplaining something to her. There was always, she was always either flawed in such a way that, she was portrayed negatively. While Wonder Woman was portrayed as flawed, she was not portrayed as weak. She was vulnerable, but she's vulnerable like any other human being in the world, learning things. So there was something different between Gal Gadot's portrayal of Wonder Woman versus, say, for instance, Rey from Star Wars, who's discovering herself and just discovering a lot of things. Wonder Woman wasn't discovering herself, per se. Okay? She was pretty sure about what she wanted to do and where she wanted to go. Rey wasn't sure about what she wanted to do. She needed direction. She needed direction different. But so I'm just saying that this is the first time you really got a female character on the screen who's a hero, a heroine, who's not flawed. It's not Monster we're looking at. Whereas, the protagonist of the story is flawed, or you're looking at that 80s or 90s movie, I forgot what it's called, Thelma and Louise, where you got two women, they're relatable and everything, but they're still flawed. You know what I'm saying? Because they're bank robbers or whatever. It isn't that kind of story. And that's what makes it powerful, because for the first time, we had all these positive role models for men, Superman, Batman, and all these other guys, Iron Man and whatever. But when it comes to Captain America, but when it comes to Wonder Woman, for the first time, we were seeing a female superhero who epitomized the things we aspired to have. She had those qualities inherent in her. We have never seen that before. And in a totally different way, because it's a different energy. It's a female energy versus a male energy. You know what I'm saying? And so the propaganda works. The preaching works. The agenda works because people literally identify with the agenda. You're not forcing this agenda on somebody. You're not twisting the truth. The essence of what Wonder Woman was, what came across on the screen. Wonder Woman stayed true to the comics. And that's why the people who are of the comics, they received Wonder Woman. And then everybody else received Wonder Woman because it genuinely, truly came from the passion of someone who actually genuinely believed what they were trying to direct and portray on the screen. It came from an area of truth. And people respond to that. And that's the pureness of truth. And that's the problem. Sony had the opportunity to bring the truth to the screen. And they failed. So that's all I got to say about that. On that note, you guys have a great one.